how we collect our recyclables from campus and ultimately earn money each month that then gets donated back to programs on campus. Carrying out this senior project has not been as easy as recycling is in that video. I've worked harder to earn these 5 credits of independent study than I have to earn any other letter grade here at Rio Americano. For this project, for me though, getting started was the easy part. I started off creating nice new green stickers. I actually got someone to donate them to me to rebrand Rio Recycles a little bit, and they're on all of our bins around campus, so it's nice and obvious where to recycle and so students understand. That was a little bit of the advocacy part. I did also a small bit of putting up posters around school. Getting signups at Rush Week is usually pretty easy for us. We're, as I mentioned, one of the biggest clubs by student membership, but it's really hard to find students who are actually genuinely interested in working with us at Rio Recycles and helping the program to continue. So thankfully, I've found 3 students who will be able to continue Rio Recycles for the next 2 school years here at Rio Americano. So my most significant challenge has clearly been convincing other kids to recycle. School-wide messages to please not throw away trash in the recycling bins didn't prove to be effective hardly at all. That's why we wear gloves, because there's a lot of trash in there. I also had to work to coordinate Rio Recycle's efforts with that of the special education program's recycling. They do a little recycling program, and I had never anticipated that. Had been an afterthought to me. It was also surprising to it was surprising to discover how difficult it was to get a hold of new bins so that we can just collect a greater volume of bottles and cans on campus. I had to go through many, many channels before I finally got my hands on some. Also, I had to consider the safety and maintenance of our bins. A lot of people access the bike trail through Rio Americano's campus between the gym and the tennis courts, and we actually had experienced problems with people stealing recyclables out of our bins, and even one individual went so far as to take a bin, and so we lost a bin. But luckily it was a quick fix, and now we just lock the bins up in the hallways over weekends. Other than that, the most frustrating part of my project was knowing that resources were out there, but really struggling to get government agencies and other independent groups to donate bins to us. These bins here are from Cal Recycle. We were able to get about 10, and then they put up a stone wall. They were like, sorry, we're not gonna give you any more bins. I was like, why? I know you have stacks and stacks of them. They sent me a bunch and they're all covered in dust. I know they had bins, they just didn't want to give me them. Despite all that, I'm proud to report that Rio Recycles is enjoying another successful school year. So far we've earned $300, which is $100 more than at this point last year. And soon we'll be placing 20 new bins around campus. The work I've done on my senior project has pushed me farther outside my comfort zone than any work I've ever done for any other class. I've grown as a public speaker and in my understanding of professional behavior since day 1 of Civitas, but it's really been this project and my internship that helped me prove to myself that these were skills I possessed. In particular, I had to reach out to strangers in order for this project to be successful. Amongst my peers and kids my own age, I'm really outgoing and I can do it, it's fine. But with adults, I can still get really shy and nervous. So having to connect with professionals and gain their support, and that was difficult for me at first. I really had to push myself to do it. And I discovered after the fact that people really do want to help. All you have to do is ask. I just had never been comfortable asking for help before. Prior to this project, I was also really afraid to delegate tasks to other students. I just wanted to do things myself, so I knew that it would be done properly and up to my own standards. But with the expansion of a group like Rio Recycles, I couldn't do it all by myself. I needed help. I had to learn to trust others and the quality of their commitment. It was also a major step realizing that it's okay to ask someone to do something for you. It doesn't mean you're any less invested in what you're trying to do. They'll let you know if they need your help, if they're too busy, or if they don't want to do it. But it's always worth asking. In reflection, I'm really glad that I encountered these challenges since my project allowed me to test what I've learned from Civitas as well as from my internship at the Department of Education. So I spent 2 weeks this past summer at the Department of Education downtown across the street from the Capitol. So that was really neat, getting to look out my window and see the Capitol building. I felt like a real state worker working 9 to 5. My mom was like, you really get out of the building on time. I was like, of course I do, I work for the state. So it was my first professional experience working there as well, and it was a really unique glimpse at government in California and how education policy works in our state. It was also really interesting to be looking from the inside out. from government. So I can still gripe about government, but now I understand what they go through on a daily basis and the chain of command and everything. So I worked in the Office of State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlifson, who's actually been a pretty prominent figure in education in California. I was there while they were rolling out his second version of his Blueprint for Great Schools, which is basically a roadmap of all the changes he's made to education in our state. So also learning about education policy, I got a glimpse of some more real-world practical things that go on in an office and really grasp the universal appreciation for good management and clear communication. As a current public high school student, I was also able to offer some interesting perspective to them on a range of topics, from Common Core, what I thought about that, civic education, my own experience with that, and Civitas, and a variety of other things. So it was nice to feel important and be able to share my own experiences. Most importantly though, again, at the CDE, I was able to prove to myself that what I learned in Civitas could be put to work and used in the real world. Skills, I definitely tested countless skills from Civitas, and even some of the networking skills I learned at CDE in terms of how to communicate with others really helped me on my senior project too. So, one of my favorite parts about Rio Recycles and why I believe it's a great group is that just like Civitas, it's going to keep on going for as many school years as it's needed until we have some crazy technological way to recycle and it's like the 2040s. But until then, I hope Rio Recycles is great because it'll keep earning money for Rio each school year and hopefully earning more and more money. It's a gift that really does keep on giving. Thanks to this, I've received a great amount of positive feedback from the community regarding Rio Recycles, and all this gave me the idea to send out letters to my community and ask for their help from my neighbors and from other parents of Rio Americano students, one of whom is on our panel today, Kelsey Burke. She's my neighbor. She donates her recyclables to me. Thank you very much. We get lots of donations from people who live around here and want to help support a great public high school like Rio. And that really means a lot to me to know that they're supporting what I do and respect what I do, and again, our entire student body here at Rio. The donation system has actually turned out to be about half of the money we end up earning, so it's nice and successful, and I'm very glad I did it and branched out to also doing that and expanding that. Another way I expanded Rio Recycles was trying to get more bids for events after school, things like this that occur after school hours, lots of sporting events in the gym. My sister played volleyball, and so thankfully I had my mom there to kind of help out and see how it went. And she said recycling was contagious. As soon as she started doing it, the girls on the team started doing it, the other parents started doing it. My sister even disclosed to me that if they didn't collect enough recyclables, they'd be running wind sprints at the next practice. So I'm glad to see recycling has some influence. Another great part about Rio Recycles is that it's something so easy to do. If you see a recyclable bottle or can, you just pick it up, toss it in a recycling bin. That's all the time it takes. I'm a very busy student myself. I spend 15 hours a week rowing crew. So if I can take the time to recycle, anyone can take the time to recycle. I personally feel that I've done all that I can to help improve Rio Recycles with any ideas I've come up with, and I can only hope that the kids I continue to pass the program to will come up with their own new improvements and ideas to add on to Rio Recycles. It'll just keep growing and evolving that way. Also, I see it as a great model for recycling that could be put into use at other schools. I'm starting to work a little bit with the San Juan Unified School District and the Buildings and Operations Manager over there to try to see if we can create a more succinct model to try to start recycling programs like this at some other schools in the district. And honestly, I don't see why it couldn't go statewide. Like, this is something that's so easy. Recyclables are everywhere. We live in California. You think recycling would be easily supported, and I hope that is true and that will continue. So it's an unquestionable fact that any Civitas student learns a ton from Civitas, and that it will definitely affect us all in our futures. Completing a senior project illustrated to me the value and ease of advocacy in action. It became clear that really the first step is putting yourself out there, and it's definitely worth it to do it, because if you don't put yourself out there, someone's just going to take your idea, and you're going to be frustrated about that, or what you want to get done is never going to get done. So you really have to take it upon yourself. Oftentimes, the difference between a lasting success and something that's works for a little while and then kind of fades off is the chain of involvement, people continuing to carry it on. And I'm proud to have been the second person to be in this chain of involvement that is Rio Recycles. Whether it's your idea or someone else's doesn't matter so much as your commitment to and belief in what you're doing. And that definitely applies to Civitas itself as a class. It's worth the years of commitment. I knew it was going to be hard work and I was ready for the challenge. If you give it all the effort you have, it's one of those things where what you put in is what you're going to get out. So I'm really glad that I gave Civitas all the effort I had, and I've been able to definitely reap the benefits of it. I had a classmate put it rather eloquently the other day that he said Civitas was the hardest fun he'd ever had. And I definitely agree with that. My Civitas classmates are some of the closest friends I have now. I've become the mom of the class. I'm called mom by my classmates. It's a little interesting. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It's just a great relationship that we have, and I wouldn't give it up for any of the hard work I put in. It's just a nice little added bonus on top of all these things I've learned about politics, international relations, everything. All worth it for the friendships, for the hard work, for doing something rewarding for my school. It's Civitas, the hardest fun you'll ever have. It's just how I think of it. So, yes.
Are you open for questions?
I am.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How did you know how many recycling cans you needed on campus?
Well, it was an interesting way to figure that out at first. I started off with about 10 bins at the beginning of the school year, and they would be full, but I knew I was missing something. I was like, I can get more recyclables with this. There's got to be something else out there. So I started off by moving the bins I did have to different locations and kind of testing and seeing which spots generated more recyclables, and it's actually really true. The kids in sophomore hallway did a great job with recycling. Their bin was always full. The freshmen, seniors were the worst at recycling, I found, which is interesting because I'm their classmate. But nowadays kids with reusable water bottles, so there's a little bit less recycling. So yeah, that was kind of how I figured out that I needed more bins and what I really wanted to do with them, and so I could strategically place them and get as many recyclables as possible.
So did you do any kind of survey of the class?
We did do a survey. I took advantage of the Civitas freshmen in 5th and 6th period, and they went out there and did a survey for me, counted how many bins we did have, in what classrooms there were bins, if teachers wanted bins in their classrooms, just so we could get a nice basic lay of the land before we took any actual steps.
I wanted to know more about what you found out about government agencies committed to recycling, supporting recycling in public schools.
Okay, well, I definitely found that there are state agencies out there working on recycling. They were just a little bit more reticent to support student-run groups like my own than I thought they would be. At first it was very easy. They gave us 10 bins and I was like, awesome, thank you so much. But I went back and tried a second time and they said, no, we're sorry, we can't give you any more bins. And I thought to myself, why is this the case? Like I said earlier, I know you have other bins, why won't you give them to me? And they didn't have an answer for me at all. So I was definitely very frustrated by that and still struggling with the idea a little bit because schools are a great area to collect recyclables in. It's dollars and money that we're throwing away right now that really can be taken advantage of and harnessed and put towards something good. Each month our money goes to a nice organization on campus. This next check will go to the band boosters. Our band here is world renowned, well, not world renowned, nationally renowned. Why not support them more? So
we've,
yes.
I was going to say really quick, we've taken the money that she's given to Civitas as one of the clubs and turned it back into bins, or to buy bins. I was at the Capitol with a bunch of freshmen, and we were down a couple of the hallways on the Senate side. And I was kind of like upset to see that they had 2 or 3 recycling bins in a hallway where there's no bodies. I mean, it's quiet there. I almost stole them.
if I was there, I would have just taken it.
These black boxes,
Yes.
big black boxes, which are the ones that are most effective.
You have outreach to the neighbors, you also outreach to the businesses locally?
That's kind of one of the next steps I was considering taking. It's an interesting challenge because a lot of businesses are becoming greener already and taking their own steps toward doing that kind of thing, especially restaurants with food. So I haven't done a ton of research into that actually, but it's an avenue I'd like to pursue. Yes, Sarah, first.
Sure. You mentioned approaching San Juan District about understanding the programs at other schools. Do you feel like, based on your own experience, clearly you put a lot of time and effort into this, that it would be viable at a school if there wasn't, say, a student or a person coordinating the program? What do you see as the issues kind of for implementation?
Well, I do think it definitely takes a point person to really make sure everything is under control, working, running smoothly, that the recyclables are getting collected regularly. That's one of the biggest challenges, making sure your bins are empty enough and available for kids to put their recyclables in and not overflowing. I don't see why not recycling couldn't take on at other schools, but I definitely do think, yes, there has to be someone really in charge of it and making sure it all goes down smoothly. But I'm confident that there's another student like myself out there at other schools who can take it on.
So recycling is a choice, it seems like. Put it in the garbage, put it in the recycling bin. What other communication have you had with students at the school to make them aware of that choice?
Well, that was a little bit of the advocacy I mentioned about just a basic message to the students not to, put trash in the recycling bins. It's clear you might recycle, please don't put your trash in there. Yes, it actually does take more convincing than you would think. It seems pretty easy, to recycle, but kids, for some reason I couldn't ever put my finger on, just weren't always in it 100%. And